Hello watch fam, this is the Panerai Panda. Thanks for tuning into this video. In this video I'm going to give you all a little bit of a review of this watch after having it now for a little over a month. I bought this watch on Black Friday 2020 in Las Vegas. And just a quick story about how I came to acquire this watch. I've actually been on a wait list, and I mentioned this in a previous video if you've been watching. I've been on a wait list for a Rolex Explorer 1 for quite a while. Started to get a little bit impatient with the process of buying a Rolex. I really thought that it was simpler than it actually is with the wait list and schmoozing with the authorized dealer and all this other stuff. And I just really wanted a watch. I wanted a watch that was waterproof, that had kind of like the diver background to it, something that did well under pressure, and something that spoke about my character quite a bit. So this watch was actually the runner-up. If I was not successful in getting the Rolex Explorer 1, but I'm very happy with the purchase. And as I said, I got it on Black Friday in Las Vegas 2020, and now it is New Year's Eve. So I've had the watch for just a couple days over the 1 month mark. And just I understand that a lot of you watching may be hardcore watch collectors with tons of Swiss luxury watches in your safe. If this is the type of person that you are, then this video rather is not for you, because I'm not gonna get into it in the same way that some of those other videos do, where the dude's wearing like nice white gloves and they're going like ooh no, this is not that video. So this is just a down to earth review of the Panerai Luminor logo 01084. So a couple things that I learned from this watch, and a few things I've kind of learned to adapt to. First is the watch is a little bulky, right? So that is something that I kind of adapted to. Now, the other watch that I have that's a Swiss watch is actually a Movado Museum Classic. And that one, because of the strap or the shape of the watch, I'm not really sure what it is, but it just kind of like sits like a glove. And by the way, my skin is really dry because I'm here in Utah, and my New York born, Florida raised body can't handle the dryness up here. So in case you were wondering why the hell is his skin so dry, it's because it's really dry here. So one of the things that I kind of had to figure out is the bulkiness of the watch. Some of the dress shirts that I wear, because I do dress up for work, gotta wear a suit for work every day for what I do. Sometimes the sleeve doesn't go down, so a lot of times I'm finding myself pushing the watch up and then trying to button the cuff here, or sometimes I'll have some dress shirts that are really nice and they just slip right over, which is great, but not all of them do that. Another thing is that just going back to how I was talking about the museum classic that I have, the Movado watch, it fits like a glove, but this one, after typing and emailing and making decisions all day doing what I do, the watch kind of tends to slide to the side that way. So I'm not sure if it's because of how my day to day or what it is, but that's just how it works. So sometimes I just move it off a little bit that way. Another thing is the strap. So when I first got the watch, the strap was actually really hard to take off, but now I just kind of take it right off. No big deal. So pretty simple. One thing though that I noticed with the strap is that, at least for me, the strap feels a little short. I have seen some, I follow lots of people on my Instagram and whatnot, and they have the watches that when they put it on, it kind of loops up like this, and you can see the tip of the strap kind of coming over, and it looks pretty cool. I like that look. I mean, yes, it does mean that you probably have a strap that's a little too big for you, but you know, it works. But here, and I'll put it on, sorry about the wobbly camera, don't know if that's annoying to you or not, but I'm putting the watch on now. All right, here it is back on. So it's kind of the tip of the strap is just kind of hanging out there, and I do find that, you know, you see the loose loop there, it comes off quite a bit and it just kind of slides out. So I'm really relying on this main one to keep my watch on. I think with the Panerais, you really do want to get into the game of you know, playing with different straps, and you know, I am gonna eventually get like the tan leather straps and the different colors. I think that they look pretty badass on this watch, so I am gonna get it at some point. But I, you know, and I actually have not yet changed this strap. And I did watch a video on how to change a strap. And one thing that you should know before buying this watch, and with Panerais in general, is that this one has screws. So you see that screw right there? Yeah. When you buy the watch, it comes with like a little screwdriver, and you kind of unscrew that and it comes out. And I think that that's pretty good. But one thing that I noticed when I first got the watch is that you see how right here, at the tip of that, I guess the opposite side of that long screw that holds the strap in place, it kind of looks like it's a little bit inside, right? A little in there. The screw itself is just a little bit inside, so it was a little out. So there was like, I was able to spin it at least one full rotation. So I would recommend that you do that, and then after, you know, using it a couple times, you know, who knows if this is gonna come out a little bit or not. But you know, I never take this watch off, so I don't really have to worry about that. But every couple days or so, I do check to see that these screws are still kind of in there real good. And if, you know, I do see that they come out a little bit, then, you know, I commit, of course, to screwing them back in. So it's going to be a little different than the spring bar situation that you've got in other watches. So I actually think that this is better, because with the spring bars, the way that they're designed, I kind of feel like, you know, if you get caught in something, that the strap is just going to pop off and your watch is going to go goodbye. But here in this situation, you actually have a screw. So just think of this as like a long screw that goes in there. So you can tug on it, and you know, it won't really pop off unless you really put your watch under a lot of stress. Another thing that I learned about having this watch is that the Panerais, most of them, they have a letter in their on the back casing, and for this watch in particular, it starts with a W, and W is for 2020, meaning that this watch was produced in the year 2020, the pandemic year. And there's also another number, and then slash, and then the 2000. Now, one thing I don't know yet is whether or not that means that Panerai only produced 2,000 watches in total, and that this is one of those 2,000, or if there are 2,000 of this watch, and that this is one of the first 30 of them. You know, so I have to figure that out. But one thing that I did learn also is that the concierge for Panerai is fantastic. You call them up, you get a live person answering right away. They'll answer all your questions, sit there on the phone with you for as long as it takes, and you know, that's it. They're just kind of there to guide you all the way. One other thing that I learned about this watch is regarding the winding. At first, I was really paranoid about buying a manual wind watch, because I was worried that I would overwind it and that I would screw the watch up. So of course, remember with the Panerais, you gotta bring the crown guard down, and then you spin it. And one thing that I found, and I made a video about this previously, that you wind it, and then you'll start to notice that at some point the crown starts to spin back. You see that? Okay. So I was told by Panerai that that's kind of like a normal thing with this watch, so you don't have to really worry about it. And the further you wind it, the more, the quicker you'll notice that it kicks back, and for a little longer. And with this watch in particular, and as probably is the case with many other, I'm still spinning it, spinning it, spinning it. It kicks back just a little bit. Eventually, if you go like this gently, it'll come to a stop, and you just won't be able to continue any further. And the watch is completely wound at this point, and you cannot go any further. With this watch, if you are concerned, like I was, about overwinding it and breaking the watch, I mean, you really have to be a dick to your watch and just go like, like in order to break it. Because if you go with, if you're doing it gently and you just kind of continue with that same strength, and then you'll feel it slow down and then eventually stop, and then that's when you stop, obviously. So don't mess your watch up. Another thing with this watch is I have been considering getting insurance for it. Now this watch, it's not a $25,000 watch, but it is, the priciest watch that I've ever bought. And I often worry that, one day I'm gonna slip on a freaking banana and smash the sapphire, or I don't know, anything can happen, or that I'm gonna lose it. Recently I lost a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, and I was so pissed at myself for losing it, and I just cannot find it. And I'm a very organized person. I usually keep things exactly where I left them. I have a home for all of my things. Even this watch, it has a home. If it's not on my wrist, it's in my it's in a very specific drawer, on top of a very specific item, and it doesn't move far from those places. So I'm paranoid that maybe one day, like, I'll have it in my pocket, it'll fall out of my pocket somehow, or I don't know. So I'm thinking about it, and as I looked into it, it's actually not that bad. And some of the companies that offer insurance on the luxury watches, they'll do like a modest proportion of the watch, and as the premium, and it covers it if your watch gets damaged or stolen. So I think that that's great. And if you have like homeowners insurance or any other type of like renters insurance, things like that, you may want to check to see if they can add an item such as this one to your policy. Because if you, Panerai, at least the Vegas store that I went to, they don't offer financing. So I had to buy this out of pocket. And I was hoping to finance a watch, but, I'm kind of glad I didn't. But either way, if anything happens to the watch, you definitely want to be able to, to get your watch back, or actually get it replaced if something happens to it. Another thing regarding this watch, and I talked a little bit about this in my journey video, that, this watch is kind of like a milestone watch for me. 15 years ago, I was washing dishes in an Italian restaurant. And the reason why I chose to kind of move forward in life wasn't because I was mentored by anybody, or, that I had a role model to look up to. The reason was because of pain. And I had so much pain in my wrist from standing there for about a dozen hours scrubbing pots under hot water, that my wrist hurt so much at the end of my shift that it pained me significantly to ride my motorcycle to go back home. Because with the motorcycle you have to crank the throttle and steer, with your hands. So I just couldn't do it. And many times I had to pull over to the side and just kind of shake my hands off in order to continue going home, because I was in so much pain. And, I kind of looked around me. My friends were off in college. Their parents were well off than my, parent situation. And I just kind of got frustrated with my state of being. So I got my act together. I stopped smoking and drinking. I started making small sacrifices and setting aside money. I went to school. I got my 4 year degree in 2 years and 10 months. Then I got a master's degree. Then I got my PhD. Then I got another master's. And now I'm in the field, that I've always wanted to be in. And I work with, lots of great public health physicians, surgeons, lawyers, work with lots of great and brilliant people. So, you know, um, that said, although I moved very quickly in my life because of the sacrifices that I made and the choices that I made with the friends that I opted to be around, the friends I opted to give up, that kind of created like a little bit of a gap, right, with myself and some in the family. So, to this day, like my family does not know that I bought, this Panerai Luminor or that it's on my wrist. And I noticed on a recent visit, my mom came to visit me with my grandmother. I found myself kind of hiding the watch under my sweater and taking it off and putting it in a safe place. Only because I didn't want the question to pop up, oh, nice watch. How much was it? Because I come from a family where it's like a sin to spend $150 on Nikes. So obviously, didn't want to do that, but I did have a kind of like a back pocket, um, I guess, story. If anybody asked me, hey, cool watch, how much did it cost? I said, I was prepared to say, instead of me telling you how much it cost, I'll tell you how I bought it. And then I'll tell the story about how I washed dishes and how I made sacrifices and how, I calculated to the penny how much money I was spending on stupid things like cigarettes, beers, um, you know, um, pills, sleeping pills, so that I can, rest, go night night, and other stupid things that I spent my money on as a kid. So, when I did the math, yes, I did save quite a bit enough over the last dozen years or so to earn this watch. And that's the story that I'm prepared to tell. But of course, you all who are watch fans, you can Google this, the PAM01084, and you can quickly tell how much this watch is. Who knows how much it's going to be worth in the future? Of course, given the limited production this year, 2020, because of the pandemic. So we'll see what happens. But this is going to be the first of many. But either way, I just wanted to say that because with the Panerai watches, one thing that I noticed from the moment that I put it on in Vegas and I walked out of the store, I started noticing that lots of men were like checking out my wrist, and I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. Because you see, if you're walking around, you see a couple hot girls, you kind of look at them and check them out. And I saw people checking out my watch, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And even in the casinos, and in other places, this watch, it has a very distinct shape. All most of the Panerais are exactly the same in terms of like some of the features. You'll see like the leather, the buckle, um, the bezel, the crown guard. These are all very distinct features of Panerai. So a Panerai watch, I mean, it's not a Richard Mille or Mille, whatever, but it does scream, "Hey, look at me, I'm a Panerai," right? So for people who understand uh, Swiss luxury watches, they can spot this watch from a mile away, and I think that that's it's unique, it's pretty cool, it's something that I kind of had to get used to, but I do notice that people look at my wrist and they kind of check out my watch. And also for me, being in certain spaces and just being able to wear this watch and have other people who perhaps didn't have such a rough life as I did like look at this and be like, I want that. It does mean something to me being able to kind of overcome many life's obstacles and making my way into, I guess you can say, a social class that I would never have been able to get into if I had just carried on with my life the way that it was, and had I not made the sacrifices that I made, and surrounded myself with the people that I did, things like that. So that's essentially it. Wearing this watch every day brings me lots of joy. To be honest, I overcame the bulkiness part of it. I am gonna switch the straps eventually to the rubber one that it came with, but I really like the other colors that I see. For these straps too, like the blue, the denim, the tan leather. I think that they're pretty dope, and I'm gonna get them eventually. So I'll see when I get it. I do think that the strap that it came with is a little small, or maybe my wrist is too fat. I don't know, but for those, I don't know. You can kind of judge for yourself. But the yeah, I think the strap is a little too small, and if I get another strap, I am gonna go for a bigger size. And this watch, it kind of marks the very beginning of the luxury watches, my luxury watch journey, I want to say. As I mentioned before, my first Swiss watch was actually a Museum of Auto Classic. And the reason why I chose the Museum of Auto Classic is none other than because I saw one of my previous bosses having the watch on his wrist, and I thought it looked so cool. It was very simple. It was just one dot. It said Swiss made in the bottom, Movado. It looked very clean. And of course, it's really hard to tell time on a Movado unless it's 12 o'clock. You eventually do get used to it, and you become very accurate with telling time. But that's the reason why I wanted the watch, because I saw him having it, and I was like, I want that watch. Even though my boss made maybe like 7 to 10 times more than I did, I did see that as kind of like like a big deal, getting that watch, even though it was nowhere near as much as this watch was. And then with this watch, I just came to learn about Panerai by looking around online. I learned about the history of the Panerai watch, its relationship with Rolex early on, the military background that it comes with, that it brings to the table. So that grit overall, the simplicity, the durability, and the toughness is something that really drew me into the Panerai brand. And I'm really happy to have had this, to now have this Panerai even before the Rolex Explorer 1 that I really wanted. And aside from the Explorer 1, I also kind of wanted this Submariner no date from Rolex. But after having this watch, to be honest, my interest in having a Submariner completely dwindled. Like, I do not care for that watch at all anymore. So the only ones that I'm kind of eyeing right now to add to the collection next up, 2021 onward, is either if Rolex happens to create by some miracle a 41 millimeter Explorer 1 in a white face or a white dial, that would be so fantastic. Or one of those new 41 OPs, the Oyster Perpetuals, that just came out. So those are kind of like the only Rolexes that I'm looking at right now. I don't like the Air King. I don't like the Datejust. The Yachtmaster, the Sea Dweller. I don't know. I just don't like the Daytona, even though it's a pretty expensive watch and you can spot a Daytona from a mile away. But I don't know. I just can't get myself to really like those watches. Like if I had the if I had the money now to buy a Daytona, I'd probably look at a Patek, and then maybe pay a part of it, or like an AP or something like that. But Overall, like I said, very happy with this Panerai. Let me put it back on because my wrist is getting a little lonely here, and I'm ready to wrap up this video. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, happy with the purchase. The next videos that I'm gonna make is gonna be about switching the straps, and on purpose, I'm not gonna try to switch the straps out until I make the video, so that you can see me making all the mistakes, so that you can not make those mistakes, hopefully, if that's what you intend to do. And in a subsequent video, I will show my collection, and just talk a little bit about the watches that I have, why I got them, and that's it. It's not going to be a luxury watch collection. For those of you who are hoping for that, it's going to be a very basic thing, but just telling kind of stories from, the oldest watch that I actually have to a Rolex that I was given forcefully by my grandmother on my dad's side, and what transpired after that, as well as a couple of watches that I have for my dad and what that actually means. So those videos are coming up, but in the meantime, just wanted to put together this video to give you a little review of my experience this month with the PAM01084 Panerai Luminor logo. Happy with it. I mean, I don't regret getting this watch. I don't regret spending the money that I did on it. I'm very happy with it. Once I put the leather strap, not the leather, but the rubber strap on, I'll start taking showers with it, so that I can do a little bit of that water testing on this watch, a bit more of that, and just have fun with this a little more, buy some more straps, and then we'll see where 2021 takes me. So until then, thanks for watching. This is Panerai Panda here with Panerai Luminor 1084. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, just X out the page, but don't hit the thumbs down button. And if you want to stay informed when I make these videos, hit subscribe. Thanks.